Check the description for the following discount codes. So no, the title is not clickbait. A one DOF motion system does indeed exist. And yes, the price is also just shy of £4,500, depending on what you need with it. Why on earth would you want a one DOF motion system, Carl? And what type of motion is it? Is it vertical? Is it horizontal? Front to back? Left to right? Okay, I'm going to explain. You may have seen my review of the Race at Home Low Rider a couple of years ago, and more recently their Low Slider. I'll put a clip up of the Low Slider in action here. This is a 6 DOF motion solution. It's in an array of funky colours in this particular video, but you can have it in whatever colours you want. It can be all one colour or many different colours. This is a bit of a mismatch there of different ones, but as you can see, we have 4 vertical actuators. We have a surge actuator in the middle. I was going to call it a thrust actuator for some reason, and we have front and rear actuators. Rear for traction loss and front for steering, you know, effectively the front of your vehicle. So that is the Low Slider at its absolute maximum. Now, a one DOF solution from Race at Home works as follows. Bob from Race at Home decided it would be a good idea and something unique and different that isn't offered elsewhere to be able to allow people to kind of buy into the Low Slider ecosystem, so to speak, at a low entry point price, and then add additional actuators as you want to upgrade and as your wallet or your needs and wants allows. So this and the low slider itself is actually kind of the base, and it is compatible. Where is the email Bob sent me? You don't have to buy the 4 vertical actuators specifically from Race at Home. You may already have 4 vertical actuators. So it supports D-Box, D-Box Gen 1 and Gen 5, plus SFX and the RS Mega, amongst others. He says it doesn't support cubic as far as he's aware at the moment. So if you've already got vertical actuators, you could just add a one DOF Low Slider, which would basically be your surge actuator, to your existing 4 vertical actuator setup. Let's have a little clip here of what a one DOF Low Slider would look like. This is a go-kart simulator he's put on here, stripped back just for the video purposes, but you can see it slides forwards and it slides backwards. So with that you can simulate acceleration and you can simulate reversing, or for those of you that like to be pulled backwards when you brake, you can have it do that. I know some of you also like to be pulled backwards under acceleration, even though you're going forwards, and like to go forwards when you're braking. So that's what you can simulate with just one surge actuator. So you could add that to your 4 actuator setup if you already had one. If you didn't and you had nothing, that could be your starting point. The Low Slider with 1 actuator, and then over time you could add more. If we now go to the 2 actuator setup, which is here, we now have, in addition to the surge actuator, we have the rear traction loss actuator. So, and to be honest, this isn't a bad little setup, because you can feel acceleration, you can decelerate to a certain extent, and obviously if you guys want to simulate braking, however I mentioned earlier, you can, and you can have the tail end sliding around for when you brake traction. You could even use that rear traction loss actuator just to simulate turning around a corner if you wish. So not a bad little starting point, you know, for building a motion system up. From there, the next clip we'll look at will be when you go 3 DOF, and this adds in the front steering actuator. Some people call it dual traction loss when you've got a front and rear actuator, but really the front actuator is moving the front of the car just like it's following the track of the wheels of the car in real life. If you sit in your car going in a straight line, you steer left or steer right, the nose or front of your car will go left and right accordingly. And that's what you get here with the front actuator. So yeah, surge, traction loss and steering. And then of course at that point, that is basically the low slider. And from this point on, you start adding your vertical actuators. Now this clip here is 4 vertical actuators with just the surge actuator on the low slider. So as if you've already got 4 perhaps vertical ones, and you've decided let's get this low slider with the single actuator to begin with, because you've already got a fair amount of motion with your 4 vertical ones, and then perhaps you're going to add in the traction loss actuator afterwards, which I'll show you here. So we've got our 4 uprights, we've got our surge, and we've got our traction loss. This is actually the configuration I run here. I don't have the clearance at the front of my rig to have a front steering actuator, because my rig would smash into my triple displays and that would be a bad day. And then of course the final, upgrade after this would be full 6 DOF, and that is where you have your steering actuator at the front, your traction loss actuator at the rear, your surge actuator in the center, and of course your 4 vertical actuators. And as I say, you can just start at the beginning. You could even start with 4 vertical actuators if you wanted to. If you've got nothing right now, you could go, do you know what, I want 4 vertical actuators first, because they add a lot more to the experience than 1 single surge actuator. And you might want to start that way. And then you could add the low slider in its 1 DOF format, so to speak. But I thought it was an interesting way to allow customers to do things here. Bob has said that the pricing, whether you buy the entire lot in one go or whether you buy it incrementally, remains exactly the same. He's not charging any additional money because you want to buy it in smaller parts. There's no additional profiteering there for no reason. Obviously, if you have stuff shipped to you, because you are welcome to collect the stuff if you're in the UK, you're local, if you have it shipped to you and you buy it in 5 different packages, well, there's going to be 5 lots of shipping, but there's not much Race at Home can do about that now, is there? But yeah, that is how it works. There will be a link to the website in the description, and you can look through the pricing for each incremental upgrade. The base price, if you just want to buy low slider 1 DOF, based in the UK. Question it asks, do you require a Thanos controller? Because again, if you've got 4 vertical actuators, you may already have a Thanos controller. If you don't require a Thanos controller, then the price including VAT is £4,438. If you require a Thanos controller, that jumps up to £4,840 and 80 pence, including VAT. Oh, he also said, if you mention my video, Carl Gosling's video, when placing an order until the end of June, there'll be a £150 discount. Again, Motion is expensive, so I know a lot of you aren't going to be interested in this, but for the top 10% of sim racers that have deep pockets and want everything there is, having got one myself and used the low slider myself, it is a great Motion setup. And pricing compared to other offerings like D-Box, for example, the Race at Home stuff is noticeably better value in my opinion. It is quite a bit cheaper, and the experience you get, in my limited experience of using D-Box and other brands, is basically on par. But that is today's video. I hope some of you have found it interesting. Feel free to take a peek at Bob's website and my other reviews of the low slider and the low rider and see if there's anything there of interest. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.